Great Scott! Orange Boys, I've come back in time to the beginning of this episode to tell you to
buy Fruity Dino Chewios. That's right, our sponsor for this week's episode. Fruity Dino Chewios are the chewy cereal. No more waiting for your cereal to get soft, soaking in that milk for a long time. You can just eat it chewy right out of the bag. That's right. But come on, Jared, you're getting rid of the crunch. What other trade-offs are there? Well, I wish I could tell you there was just as much sugar as a normal bowl of cereal, but there's not. There's twice as much.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Fruity Dino Chewios is the best way to start your morning. That's right. Remember, crunch is out and chewy is in. Get your box of Fruity Dino Chewios at your nearest supermarket.
Wait. Before you go, though, how does the rest of the episode go?
You're going to have to find your own path.
What?
Classic time traveler answer, non-advice.
The time it's come for me to go, but be warned, it'll be the best episode yet.
Whoa!
Great.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you,
Bye.
time traveler man.
Welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night.
Whoa.
This week we are talking about time travel.
Whoa.
Let's rewind that. This week we're talking about time travel.
Whoa.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
Very.
So I think the first question that's going to obviously come up is, there are so many time travel movies out there. Which is your guys' favorite? It seems like we're getting right into it. And
We're just hopping right in because there's a lot to talk about.
I mean, we're not... I guess we should maybe throw a disclaimer at the beginning of this. We are film enthusiasts. The three of us are. We are not physicists.
No.
We're not going to be ranking any time travel movies on their realism.
Not based. Yeah, no, definitely not.
My first draft of a question got shot down by Lucas and Jared because I just wanted to ask, how does time travel work? And they told me that they didn't have the answer to that. So,
well, I do have the answer. I just would prefer not to do a 4-hour episode again. So I just didn't have to explain it. And it's impossible. That's the dumbed down version for someone like you.
yeah.
To set the
layman.
foundational knowledge required to understand time travel, it does take some time. But luckily...
You can
in
get
the
it all
future,
back.
We'll have a lot of time. So
Yeah.
if you are interested in learning how time travel works from Lucas or I, you can just go ahead and let us know in the future, and we'll come back in time and let you know.
And let you know in this episode.
Interesting.
Or if
And-
we haven't, this will probably insert it into episode 500, which is where we'll talk about time travel again, because that will be where we go to. So, if you see that shot out in 500, you'll be like, I remember episode 148 when they talked about this. Okay.
And I also just want to put a disclaimer on there. If Lucas and Jared haven't already come back in time from the future to explain time travel to you, it's not because time travel doesn't exist in the future. It's because you didn't approach them and ask them about it in the future. And so that's why
exactly.
it's on you.
There's also a chance that you are, you not knowing time travel is
Part of
crucial
the key. Yeah.
to us unlocking time travel, or crucial to us, or just like saving the future, right? We don't want a Terminator situation.
No, definitely not.
So
Do you
you,
ever
might
think
be
about-
the John Connor. Is that his name? John Connor?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
Do you ever
Sarah-
think about
Sarah
how
Connor.
much of a bummer it would be that for sure if time travel got invented, it would be owned by like Amazon or Tesla or something?
Dude, I had not thought about that until right this moment, and I hate that. But you know what helps me
No,
escape
it
that
would-
idea?
It would be discovered, and then the company would the stock price would go big, and then Elon Musk would acquire it.
Then it
'cause
would.
He's the visionary.
He's
Yeah.
the guy.
And
He's
then-
And
gonna
then
be the
he'd-
one to
he'd
fix it.
rebrand
Take away
time
all of the
travel.
woke from it.
Yeah, and really just I mean, just look at Twitter. How much better and more valuable it's become since he took it over, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which he should use it to go back in time and not do that.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Whoa.
But
Yeah, totally.
I think he
I
would.
see.
I genuinely
You
think,
think he would take it back?
He would
He
say,
would go
"Oh,
back
he
and he would
definitely."
not
Dude,
buy
he tried
Twitter.
to take it back, and
He
then they're like,
tried
"No, you've
so
already
hard to
committed to
not
this.
buy
You
Twitter."
can't undo this.
Yeah.
You can't just pretend like you didn't want it."
That's true. Okay, well, hey, that's a plot for a movie.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Elon Musk trying to not buy Twitter, and then having to buy it, then eventually owning time travel so he can go back and not buy Twitter.
But then
That's
by not buying Twitter, he never got to a point where he could own time travel.
Because Twitter
lost
blows
in it.
up, it
He gets
becomes
lost
really
in an
valuable.
endless paradox.
I see.
That
Yeah,
would-
well, I hate that potential future, but you know what helps me escape that is movies, especially movies about time travel.
Segue boy.
So look at me
baby.
segue
Boy,
there.
back. Thank you for roping us back in. What is your favorite time travel movie and why?
I'm pretty sure that I've talked about this before on the podcast, but Looper is so cool. I love the concept of a world. This isn't spoiling anything, it's just establishing kind of the way that time travel functions in the world. But they are living in the future, kind of the near future. I think it's like 2040s or something like that. But the whole idea is that time travel hasn't been invented yet, but in the future it will be. And there's this kind of like cross-time, like underworld assassin business going on where people in the future that need people killed send them back in time to be assassinated by assassins in the past, so that there isn't a way you can trace that murder or find that body. And
So
Which is
interesting.
such a
So
cool plot. Such a
It's
cool plot.
a very, very cool concept. And then, of course, things get all crazy and wacky and goofy and I don't know. That movie, just thinking about it gives me chills. And their concept of time travel is really cool, but then also it's just a really good movie. And they do a really good job of like, time travel's been invented in the future and you don't need to understand how it works. Because
Yeah,
the movie's
totally.
not set in the future. It's set in the present.
It's just like accept
So
that
it's
time
just
travel
like,
exists.
yeah, we don't know how it works, but it exists,
It
and
exists,
they send
yeah.
people back. And so there's no scene where it gets bogged down with them trying to explain the rules of time travel or the paradoxes of it. It's just kind of like, yeah, we don't know how it works. And it's a really
great.
good way to get away with something that, like, time travel always opens some sort of plot hole that then you're like, I don't
know about that.
or now I don't get it, or I'm confused, or how does this work? But Looper's pretty airtight with how it's set up.
Or it'd be like, hey, Friday, run those calculations on the Mobius circle. And he's like,
And she's like, time travel.
she's like, time travel
accomplished.
invented. And he's like, whoa! And then it's
really
like,
is-
now let's move on to the rest of the movie.
That is one
That
of the
is-
most extreme suspension of disbelief moments in all
it
of the
really
Marvel
is.
Cinematic Universe.
Well, and the thing is, I was trying to brainstorm every time travel movie that I've seen. And that one I've seen many times didn't even cross my mind that it was a time travel movie.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, it won't be in the list of time travel movies.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
but it's just kind of like more of a montage movie that takes us through the cinematic universe with this big conclusion.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
It's great, but
Yeah.
that is so
It is.
funny
Well,
that you
here's the
bring it
thing.
up.
Here's the thing with time travel movies and things like that, because it's almost pretty much every single big successful franchise has incorporated time travel in some way or another. People will be like, oh, it's never going to touch Marvel. It's never going to touch Star Wars. And guess what? It did. And so I think that is totally fine, because these stories and stuff are already so out there. And that is All right, now we got video going. I'm going to continue what I was saying. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome to the Video Town. From here, our audio is still good, though, which is great.
Heyo.
What I was saying,
Yeah,
it
we're only
is
10 minutes
inescapable. It's even in Harry Potter.
Or are we
It's in Star Trek. It's not in Lord of the
minutes
Rings, I guess. But there are
Not
so
in Fast
many...
and Furious yet.
Men
but I
in
have
Black.
my
It's like
theories.
all those, even sci-fi adjacent, sci-fi/fantasy adjacent properties pretty much have incorporated time travel in one way or another.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's fine. I used to be salty about that. I used to be like, oh man, but then blah, blah, blah. But whatever. There's always some way of getting around it because time travel is just fun. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. And I think, unfortunately, the position we're in with movies and like kind of these cinematic universes is it's like, oh, well, we've done time travel. How about what if the multiverse? And that is a way less interesting concept to be played out in a scale like that, because then it's way more of the idea of, oh, none of your consequences have actions because there's another universe that exists
Yeah.
where you didn't make that decision or you did.
Yeah.
Or there's a different
Multiverse
version
is
of you.
Multiverse is cool for a movie, but
Thing.
once
Yeah,
you
exactly.
franchise it, it's kind of like,
It's like,
okay, so why does anything matter then?
yeah.
You know?
It's like Everything Everywhere All at Once is a great example of that. It's just like a really cool self-contained idea. There's not any sequels or anything like that.
And also, honestly, Loki, both seasons, because
Yeah,
it's not
totally.
like
It is self-contained,
you're not
pretty
concerned
well.
about all of the other multiverse stuff going on. They really are just kind of like, this is happening right here, right now. And like, I don't know, this is getting way off track, but the
Sure.
idea
I mean,
of
obviously-
like an organization that's at the center of the multiverse, that's more interesting than one of the universes of a multiverse.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kinda
yeah,
like,
totally.
Then who cares about everything that's going on? You know, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, if it has one perspective through sequels, like, then it's good. If
Yeah.
it has, oh, this is just a different perspective in a unrelated thing, then that's
Yeah,
stupid.
and the nice thing about time travel usually as well is that there are consequences for traveling in time, almost always. It's like, yeah, you can change something, but then it's like, if you change that, then there are residual effects, and they show those pretty well, I think, in a lot of these time travel movies. My favorite time travel movie, though, is Interstellar. I love
Nice.
Christopher Nolan. I love Inception.
So not Tenet?
I love Christopher Nolan. I love Inception. I love Interstellar. I think honestly, Interstellar is his best movie. I think Inception is my favorite, but I think Interstellar is his best. I love Oppenheimer as well, but Interstellar is definitely my favorite time travel movie. It's just so good. Like, I rewatched it last year, and I just still can't get over how much I loved rewatching that movie. It's just such a good time travel, like space, love story, whatever. It just checks off so many boxes successfully. I just love it.
Big fact.
Cool. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think mine's pretty obvious. If you watch and you know me, it's
Bill
Back
and
to the
Ted's.
Future.
Oh,
Yeah, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, baby.
Yeah, baby.
What's the new one?
Bogus
What's the
Journey
third?
is
What about
so
Face the
much
Music?
worse. Face the
Face of
Music. is the
Music.
thing.
That's what, yeah, that's
one.
my favorite. The older
Definitely seen
Keanu
that.
is, the better the movie is. Honestly, in some ways.
Kind of.
Yeah, Matrix
no.
Resurrections. You got freaking Bill and Ted 3. We didn't even talk about that last week with our Legacy sequels because it was forgettable and no one wanted
Yeah,
it.
I thought about bringing it up, but I was like, it wasn't even like bad, so we
It was
couldn't answer
just-
it for that one. It was
just
just like,
existed.
yeah, I enjoyed it, and then it was gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back to the Future is just a great adventure movie. It has the whimsy of a Steven Spielberg produced movie from the 80s, and it's great for exactly what it is. I think the time travel element is just very fun, and this kind of, he's accidentally sent into the past, and now he's got to try to find a way to get back to the future, but also try to find a way.
That's why they
Just
call
try
it
to.
that.
That is Niall. Good.
Oh,
Go ahead and grab a gold star from the box I gave you.
from the box you
Put it
gave me?
on.
Thank you.
Put it right on your
Put it
forehead.
Yeah. But also he's trying to make sure that he doesn't screw up the past because he still wants to be born, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
the
Consequences.
there's consequences, right? And he's actively trying to deal with those. I think more specifically, as far as the time travel stuff goes and how interested in it and invested in it I am when it comes to it.
Yeah.
Turning the
You
Kyle
finished a
Mooney
sentence.
interview.
Go ahead and grab a gold star out of the
I'll
box that
take
I
it.
gave you.
Okay, thank you.
Finishing
Well, you guys are
one
out here
sentence.
exchanging gold stars. I hope I can get one later.
Oh,
I didn't give you a box.
Yeah, I'll make you a box, but it's not.
Well, you
gonna have
mail it
I'll
to
stars
give you
in
a
it.
box. I think the second one is better with time travel stuff. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
totally,
more,
totally.
right? There's more clear consequences. There's just more time travel. They go to the future and then to a
yipping around like
dystopian
crazy.
85 and then back to the 1955
Yeah.
and seeing the events of the first movie unfold at the same time as the events of the sequel is super interesting, super cool, super well done. So
And also, it puts you in a feeling of like one thing that Looper and even Interstellar don't really do is kind of the fear of like, okay, now we're in the past, like. Don't mess anything up. Like we talked about the consequences, but the feeling that you get as a viewer of like the tension and all, like the thrill of seeing them like almost messing up and ceasing to exist because of it. Like it's really cool. I just the stakes feel really high in those movies.
there's so many moments of tension, and the release is just super gratifying as a viewer. So those are my favorite. I think an honorable mention is like Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh,
I think-
yeah,
those are
if you
great.
count
yeah.
those, yeah.
The,
Yeah, like
the kind of time loop
The
movies.
time loop movies,
Yeah.
exactly.
Palm
I
Springs is
think,
another great one.
yeah, Palm Springs. I think those ones, yeah, good honorable mentions. You don't, I mean, maybe you think about them immediately when it comes to time travel, but they're so creative with how they handle the time loop idea.
Yeah.
So, big fan of those.
Yeah, man,
Uh,
I gotta rewatch Edge of Tomorrow. Just thinking about like the whole blood
It's
thing,
awesome.
like that is
So
sick. That is a really cool, that is a really cool way to
It's
approach
so
that.
good.
Yeah, because that. Let me just say one more thing
go
about
for it.
time travel. It's been done to death, like I mentioned. However, it's still really cool when you incorporate like a new flair with it, like we were
Yeah.
talking about. And like even just with Edge of Tomorrow, I'm thinking like, man, that was so cool. And it's like, yeah, sometimes it just has to be the plot vehicle, like it is for Endgame. But other times you can come up with really cool, creative ways of doing it, and it is continually interesting. Like Looper as well. Like all these ones we've been talking about, have been getting me like interested and excited to rewatch some of these.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I-
interesting even then to think if we could inject a movie, with time travel, how would it
Exactly,
change?
bro.
Yeah, totally.
You read my mind because here's what
Interesting.
I'm going to ask right now is a question that I
What?
came up with, which is as follows. It sounds like this. Ready? 3, 2, 1. I'm going to ask it right now. 3, 2, 1. Here it is. What movie would be better? What movie would have been better if it had a time travel plot in it, whether that's the main plot or just a subplot?
I think it's a fun question.
agree.
I've got my answer,
Let's hear it.
and I don't necessarily know if it'd be better, but I think it would be very interesting,
Totally.
and I think it'd be fun to make this movie, right? Even if it's hijacks it, turns it into something new, and that's the movie Reservoir Dogs.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
I think in the way of
that's
kind
a
of
fun-
having maybe a kind of a time loop sort of thing, where you have an agent undercover in a criminal, like they're going to pull off this big heist, and he can't be found out, or else the future's screwed, right? Whatever it is, maybe it's a very important heist. I don't know.
It is.
But have I'm not going to say which person it is in Reservoir Dogs, but have the undercover cop at each turn, figuring out how the heist is going to go and making sure he navigates it so that they complete the heist successfully, but also so that he doesn't get found out, and also that it just results in the exact way it needs to end
Yeah.
for the future to be secured.
I
right?
like that.
And so then you can have more of there's so many elements already to that movie, and what I like about it is how it jumps around from different points in the narrative, right? you basically see the heist fail right at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out what the plan was and kind of see all these different stories. And so I think it'd be cool if you still jump around timeline-wise. But again, the one character who is undercover is going back to try to make sure he does it right.
Nice. That's sick. I love that. I
like that.
That's a really fun idea.
That's a cool idea. Honestly, if you even just take the concept of Reservoir Dogs and then made a new movie with a time travel element, kind of using
Exactly.
that as a template,
Yeah.
could be pretty sweet.
Could
Yeah.
be, could be fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
I mean, he kind of, that is a really cool idea. My answer is something a little bit less cool, but something that I think would be fun. Maybe not necessarily in the movie of this, but there is a TV show spinoff that could incorporate this pretty well. That is What We Do in the Shadows. Vampire.
Okay.
I think
Dude, you've got Supernatural already. You might as well just get goofy
And so
with
it's
it.
like somehow, I mean, I know you guys haven't watched the show, so I'll keep this in just contact of the movie. It's like somehow, let's say there's like a What We Do in the Shadows sequel, and there's some other vampire lord who's like, yeah, I have time travel abilities. And again, I don't know that this would be better or even necessarily remaking the original, but like retooling the original, but like as a sequel more. And then he's like, oh yeah, we can go back in time, and because so much of the characters of these vampires in particular is just the fact that they never age, and so like their people die and stuff, and it's like, oh, we can grant you this person, or we can get you to go all the way back to when you were, like for Jermaine's character, it's like we can get you to go back to when you were actually a king and a ruler. Just stuff like that I think would be really fun, and then for it to all go screwy and haywire I think would be really interesting and funny element, and like world to see time travel implemented into.
Totally.
yeah.
And
That's a great answer.
Yeah, with them being immortals and everything, it would,
Exactly.
I mean, it wouldn't be too far off. Like they've lived in the
Yeah.
past,
For sure.
so that'd be very fun.
I love it. My answer, I think everybody saw this coming, but it's The Founder with Michael Keaton. I feel like it would be.
How did the founder become our Venom 2?
Yeah, why is the founder the new
I
Venom?
think it would just be really interesting to see them interpret what actually happened was that Ray Kroc went forward in time and found out how McDonald's was operating in 2021, I think is the year that he went to. And then he went back and he took some of those ideas and implemented them into the first McDonald's location. So I
All day breakfast immediately.
I feel like it would be
implemented.
more realistic if they had included the time travel plot in that. But my second answer, the one that's not obvious,
Yeah.
is Fast X or Fast and Furious X.
Totally.
Because
Totally.
here's what I'm thinking. Jason Momoa, his character already comes from the past. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
he's
quote, unquote.
he's mad at the family because of what they did to his family. So this is an entire change of the plot of that movie. But I think it would work really well in the Fast and Furious
You wouldn't even notice
franchise.
if you rewatched it.
You do an
The plot is
Endgame
different.
type thing.
Yeah, Endgame
except
Part 2
instead
with
of the
time
good guys going back in time to save something, Jason Momoa's character either invents time travel or has someone invent time travel for him. And then he goes back in time to all of the other movies to torment them in the past. And then
Nice.
they, in the future, I guess somehow also are unaffected by the torment in the past. And they travel back in time and they chase him through all of the movies.
nice.
And you get a scene of them like Tokyo drifting and you get the vault chase and the tank jump chase and the runway chase and all of the different cool and awesome chases and
Tokyo drift.
submarine stuff. Maybe they're going back in time to 9 and you get to watch them have that nightmarish
Yoda.
Star Wars
Oh.
conversation. And
The hits.
I think honestly, Fast and Furious. At first, I was thinking like, "Oh, that would be kind of funny," and then I was
then
like,
you're like, "Hey,
"No, it would
wait a
really
minute."
fit for Fast and Furious. It would be really." At this point, they've gone so ridiculous. They've gone to space, which was always kind of the joke.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, okay, they're gonna
Imagine.
go to
Dude,
space,
9
and
was
then
just
what?
the joke
And
manifested.
yeah,
The whole
and
movie.
where do they
whole
have
movie.
to go now? Back in time.
Yeah. Honestly, though,
That's
Space
the
and
next
time.
big step.
you sit Vin Diesel down and you pitch him that, he is nodding his head seriously
100%.
in
Yeah,
agreement the
he's-
whole time, and he's like, "Let's do it." Fast 11, best fast movie. Time
You're
travel.
like, but Dom. I mean, but Vin. Sorry, it's just too similar. You're too close to your character. But Vin, we would have to have a moment, I think, where when you drive fast enough and you break into the speed force and it breaks time and space apart, someone has to stay back to hold it all together.
Yeah.
And we need someone with like super strength. Is there anyone in your franchise who could with their bare hands and their wife beater on,
Hold the universe.
Hold the
together.
literal fabric of time and space.
And he's like, yeah. He's
like, yeah, that's me.
idea.
And then
I
you'd be like,
think
"Hey,
I've got
Vin,
someone."
hey, Vin, I heard your real name is Mark Sinclair. Is that true?" And he would say, "Get out."
No, that's not my real name.
No, that's good, man.
Thanks.
I think it's kind of the swallowing the tongue sound.
Yeah,
that doesn't
that's
make-
the what
Yeah,
you
you
do.
gotta-
Is you turn your tongue sideways in the mouth.
the tongue sideways in the mouth.
I'm Vin Diesel.
My name.
Live
I'm
life.
Groot.
Well,
Live
about
life
family.
a quarter mile at a time. That's what Vin Diesel sounds
yup.
like.
I think those are all great answers,
Howdy,
and I
fellas.
unironically would watch all of them.
Yeah,
yeah, totally.
They all
Me too.
just sound
Me too.
incredibly fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Totally.
Well, speaking of fun movies, here's a question.
Segway king, dude.
You know, I think we've been yapping, we've been bapping about
I've been
movies
yapping.
with time travel in them. But what if we took the time travel out of the movie and we put it into us, and we put ourselves also into a movie? So my question is,
Oh, okay.
if you could travel backwards in time and work on or just observe the goings on of any film set ever, or TV show, if that's what you'd rather do, and just be there for the whole process to see how it goes down, what would you choose and why?
Yeah.
If you guys need some time, I do have an answer to this.
I've got an answer as well. I'm just
Same.
pulling up a reference so that I have something to
facts.
show you. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, hit me
Here's
with
what
it.
we got. I would go to Taxi, the TV show.
Wow, interesting.
Okay. Fun.
This is a show that I haven't really actually watched at all.
You're just trying
However-
to culture yourself.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
here's the thing. Taxi was a revolving door for emerging stars and emerging, comedians specifically. And you had all of these people coming up. This is what I wanted to pull up, people that were on Taxi, but I need to even be
nice.
more specific with my search of like actors who started on Taxi.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. You've got Danny DeVito, Andy Kaufman, Christopher Lloyd was on there, Tony Danza was on there. There's a million people that were on this show, and to be on a show that was so like working on a show, whether I'm, in it, I probably would be in it because I'm like really talented. But if
They just
I
see you like
were-
you're in it.
you're
Get
in
over
it now.
here.
You're the,
Me?
You're the
You-
main
me?
character.
PA?
You're Taxi.
Yeah, but I think that it would just be really cool to like, if you met anyone that worked on Taxi in any regard, they are kind of like, oh, I bet you have so many cool stories from Taxi and the people that you met and whatnot. I just feel like that's about as influential and connected of a set that you can be a part of, and I
think Cheers
That's-
similarly would have
yeah.
had a
But when you brought that up, like when this question came up, my mind immediately was like Taxi. 100% that's my answer. And so, you got to go with your gut on some things.
totally.
I love that.
Yeah. Sometimes your gut is wrong, and that's totally fine. So let's hear what Jared's answer is.
Yeah, I've got two, and one of them is kind of I'm fated to go back in time to stop this from happening.
Oh, interesting.
And it's a controversial pick in this podcast, but it's The Last Jedi. I think
interesting.
yeah, a lot of that is garbage.
You
poo-poo
kill
bad.
Ryan Johnson.
No, I
He'd
don't
already
think
made Looper at that
Ryan's
point.
yeah,
so you're
yeah.
good.
yeah, and you know,
Go back and kill Rose.
had he done Knives Out yet? Because
No,
I
he
want
hadn't.
that to still happen.
Uh,
But I didn't like it. I don't like that movie, and I think there were some dumb script choices made. And
Certainly.
I think we've all discussed this before on the podcast. So go listen to our sequels episode.
Episode 2.
I
Episode
think it's our
2.
most listened episode.
Most listened is, I think you should leave.
Yeah,
I
it changed a bit.
I think that one is the most listened to because if you search on Spotify specifically, I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. It's one of the top results.
Sure.
Oh.
So
I bet that's what it is.
kind of fun. But
Star
anyway.
Wars. You don't think we're one of the top results? One of the
For
only
sequel
results for Star
trilogy.
Wars.
Yeah, somehow we're not, but barely.
But yeah, I would only really want to go back to that set if I could be in some sort of position to make decisions.
Authoritative capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd have to be
I
Ryan Johnson
doubt-
or Kathleen Kennedy.
Exactly.
Basically.
I doubt that I would be granted any sort of permissions like that. So I'll go to my backup answer, which is Game of Thrones. And I'm not trying to say in that same vein that I need to fix the ending or anything like that. Obviously,
You would have.
there's some things that I would definitely change. However, I think even just in the early seasons, being a part of the set piece for the Red Wedding, things like that, seeing
dude, yeah.
such culturally significant, like cinematic moments, would just be so awesome. And to be able to dive into the world of Westeros and see how that was made would just be so cool. And
Yeah.
I'm such a fan of fantasy. I think it would just be so fun. Like it would be freezing, I'm sure. A lot
Yeah.
on set.
The conditions,
Definitely.
I'm sure, would be miserable to
But-
unbearable.
Exactly, right. The other thing is none of us watched Game of Thrones while it was coming out. And to be able to have been a part of the biggest
Yeah.
show ever
Yeah. Amidst the hype.
As it's,
amidst the hype would be so cool. And so those are my answers. Again, if I can change things, Star Wars. If I can't, just Game of Thrones would be
Nice.
sick.
Yeah.
Cool. Very fun. Yeah, I was... Man, I like the change things idea as well. I was more thinking just to be able to watch, just kind of
Right,
observe.
and that's what I assumed.
But
Or
with
to be
that,
in it. 'Cause
Oh,
Jared
yeah, if
would've
you
made-
put- yeah,
Jared would have
that's
made a
totally
great
different.
brand.
yeah. Is that an insult or a compliment that he would be a good
It's
brand?
just true. It's not an insult or a compliment.
All right.
All right,
just
yeah.
a statement.
Well, just take it then.
I want
So
to play Ed Sheeran.
along, yeah, that little cameo.
I could
it's
do
you
Hodor.
instead. Yeah, you'd be a great Hodor.
No,
Hodor.
Lucas, you're Hodor. You're like a million feet tall.
Oh, dude, Hodor is like 7 feet tall and he's so wide too. That's why Hodor is.
So that's
who
why
he
it
is.
would be good for me.
Yeah, because you just do
'Cause of the
the
width.
I
expansion.
can't. Are you guys complimenting each other?
We're just stating facts. There's no
okay,
compliments or
okay.
insults
Yeah.
happening.
Just
Okay, so we're
observational.
objective.
I'm
Yeah.
wide and he's tall, so you would be who's tall? A White Walker guy or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, Bran.
probably.
King of-
Bran
King of
Bran
Dark
is,
guy.
Bran is all tall.
Oh, Brianna
Oh, she is. Yeah, yeah.
or
she is.
Brienne.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
Brienne of Tarth. I'm taller than her though. She's only 6'4". So
Lame. You could also be in
I'm
the
only
Last
6'3".
Jedi.
true, she is in
Also
that.
Ooh.
Her.
As a yeah. Anyway,
She
so
ever retires, you're gonna make it big, bro.
yeah, I'm gonna take
Oh,
over her
true.
place.
She's the one thing standing in your way.
Yep, that and no one or nothing else. But the context of like, okay, I'm here, I'm participating, I'm in it, I'm watching it. You know, there are movies that come to mind that we love, like Star Wars and Dune and things like that. But it's like you think of working on that, and yeah, I'm sure it would be such a cool experience. However, working in sand and in the desert like that, I have done it before, and let me tell you, it is not quite as fun if you're not involved in a creative capacity, because for you it's like, I mean, obviously the set I worked on was very comparatively very small. It would be amazing to watch that process, but you would be working. Like you would feel the days, you would know, like it would not be a comfortable experience.
Laboring in the same.
It would be amazing, I'm sure, but yeah, exactly. Laboring, working, you're there. And so I think this movie would just be so fun to be on set for.
Waterworld.
You got it. How did you guess it? It's
'Cause
Waterworld.
It's the opposite of Infinite Sand.
Yeah, true. That's the only sand. No other harsh weather conditions would be annoying or tedious to work in.
Yeah.
Only sand.
Waterworld is infinite water. That's good.
Ah, that is good. No, my answer is Hot Rod. I think being like,
Not expect
I bet anyone on
that'd
set
be so
Dude,
fun.
I bet that was so much fun
even in the
every
lowliest
day.
PA,
Yeah.
because it's not like a huge movie. Like, yeah, it had a bit of a budget, it had some kind of stars, but it was still early, like to mid 2000s. So none of the Lonely Island guys had really blown up. Not Bill Hader, none of them. It was just kind of like an SNL type thing, but it was a movie. And I bet that was just so fun to see and be a part of. Like, I bet people were joking around like crazy, just laughing at, like, I'm sure Danny McBride, just all his crap, everything happening. I'm sure it was just so fun and so entertaining. I think being on a set like that, or that one specifically, in this context, would have just been so fun.
Yeah. Well, and
watching
all of
all
the
the
stars.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, totally. And almost all of the stars are in like every scene. So
Yeah,
even if you're a PA, no matter what you're there working on, like they are
You're in
there
it. Yeah.
doing like yeah.
Yeah, they're not. They
It's-
don't have
it's
a B
great
crew
choice.
filming, observational footage. It's the same
Yeah.
crew. Like, they're there.
But then it's also larger scale than like Napoleon Dynamite because Hot Rod had an actual budget, and so it was probably pretty comfortable working conditions. When we went to Napoleon, Jerusha Hess was talking about how it was like people were just kind of like cramming into their friends' houses in Preston, Idaho, and like ferrying each other in whatever cars and trailers they had available in town, and it's pretty ramshackle production. But Hot Rod was a real production,
Totally.
And so,
And
but
Napoleon
as
Dynamite.
small as a real production can be.
Yeah, totally. And Napoleon Dynamite, I bet for a lot of the people working on it, was probably like, okay, whatever, just some whatever
Yeah, just
comedy.
doing it,
Like, I'm
who
just
cares?
working. This is just a gig in between gigs type thing. But then it turned out to be awesome, obviously. But Hot Rod, yeah, because it has that slightly higher level of like, yeah, it's still comedy, but it does have a bit of a budget. You recognize some of the faces if you watched SNL in that era. And yeah, you would have been excited to be there and then just overjoyed to have been a part of the process, I'm sure.
Totally. That's a great answer.
Great, yeah. Honestly, probably my favorite answer.
Thank you.
I think you would get a gold star if you had gold stars. Unfortunately, you don't.
I wish I had.
Didn't give you a box.
Didn't give Lucas the box. Well, guys,
That's the end
I
of the
wanted
episode.
to. Well, I
Just
just
kidding.
I was supposed
No,
to take
no.
a quick break around the halfway point. We might be even a little bit over the halfway point, just again to talk about our sponsor, Fruity Dino Chewios.
Oh, yeah.
It is the Chewy cereal. Crunch is out. No more waiting for your
yes.
cereal to get soft. Enjoy a
It
bowl of
always
Fruity
is.
Dino Chewios today.
Yes, I want that.
And welcome back to Man Cave Movie Night.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
We're going to move into our next and final question. I was thinking about this watching a movie recently, and I was like, man, if you showed me this 10 years ago, I would be blown away. If you showed someone 20 years ago, it would not be possible, right? The jump that we've had is insane, and it just keeps getting greater and greater. Well, guys, what if you took someone from the 1920s? You plop them out. You got to bring them to an IMAX theater, and you said, "Sit and shut your gub,
This
button
is
your gub,
this
and
is
check this out."
let's expand this scenario a little bit and say this is one of the
Yeah.
people walking into the theater to watch that train movie of the train. It's like, no, wait, we actually have a
Yeah,
different
yeah.
movie just for you. Come with us. And then you launch them 100 years into the future, and you're like, "Okay, this is the one just
Well,
for
first
you."
of all, they're experiencing color for the first time because color didn't
Color
exist.
was
Color
not yet
wasn't
invented.
invented.
He
yet.
was, or he or she was living in a black and white world, and now they're transported.
Now they're like, "Wow!"
Endless hellscape of grayscale.
Wizard of Oz.
I've got my answer.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'd plop them in a theater and show them The Artist from 2011 to show them that nothing has changed and film has not advanced.
But it's like,
That's
this is movies.
They're like, wow.
This is what movies still are.
They're like,
And this
screen's
is what
that big.
movies
the screen
all
is
can
this
ever
big.
be.
Wow. But then they
No,
do talk at the
honestly, I feel like I'm trying to think if I would show them something just to hurt them, or if I would show them something to show them how far. Because I genuinely think that if you showed someone from the 1920s Inception, they would have like a conniption and die. Like,
Okay.
they wouldn't.
Let
Sure.
me.
They
If you
wouldn't
don't
be
have an
able to
answer,
handle it.
I have an answer, and I think
they
it is the
will-
correct answer.
They will go back in time and have mental health issues.
Yeah, 100%.
They'll go
Before
back.
They're like,
treatment
I
is
just saw
available."
this thing and it was real. It actually happened.
It actually happened, and it was
gave
in
you- I-
color. Color was
He
real.
gave
Yeah.
me glasses that made the images pop
Oh,
off
dude,
the
you watched
screen.
Dude, 3D. Honestly, Shark Boy and Lava Girl is my answer. Just to have something that's way too colorful, images popping out,
Just
lava
like crazy.
splashing up out.
All right,
Dude, genuinely, Shark Boy and Lava Girl is my answer.
Nice.
I
That's
think
awesome.
that's a good
That's
answer.
They would be so confused.
George Lopez giant TV screen face, dude. Just they would be terrified.
They would have no
Yeah.
clue
Shark
what's
Boy.
They
going
would
on.
have nightmares.
Girl.
They'd be Sam from Transformers drawing on the walls.
Yeah,
Afterwards,
100%.
just
They'd
drawing
they'd
George
go back in
Lopez's
time and
face.
They get shot back in time with the crowd as they're leaving the theater. So they have to talk. He's like rattled, right? But everyone else around him is rattled too. But he's like, no, wait, this is and he's trying to. They're like, yeah, no,
Lightning
we
arms
get it, we get it.
and
You know, we watched the same thing.
Right?
But they
And,
didn't watch the same thing, and it started like even crazier because of that.
I like to imagine that
Dream
this
Journal?
is the real backstory of the director John Ford. He went into the future and had this experience, and then came back and he was like, "I'm gonna revolutionize everything."
Movies. Just really slow westerns for a while there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he pushed it forward a lot.
He
Yeah,
did.
that's
He definitely
before George Lopez was in the picture.
did. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really when cinema blew up.
When it finally took the next step. I mean, just Blue Beetle
George
last year.
stepped in.
Yeah.
Dude, Blue Beetle. Only in theaters August 18th.
So good.
All right, Lucas.
So my answer, I have to give a little bit of credit to Nathan Judd because I read this as part of his Letterboxd review, and
Okay.
I've had this like concept in my mind, and I just think it is so funny. And that is for Across the Spider-Verse. I think
Interesting.
because it wouldn't really make any sense at all plot wise if that's the first movie you've ever seen, but the colors and also just the
Yeah.
fact animation at all.
True.
They're like, what is
Oh, this is
happening?
going to be like one of the cartoons from the funny pages. And then
Well-
they see it and they're just like
what like again in
buffeted
3D
by
but
pure
little
art.
little elements of live action. But yeah, a lot of it is like super artistic and visually like encapsulating, like especially the beginning where Gwen is playing drums and there's all those
Oh, yeah.
color flares. Like that alone, I feel like would just cause them to break down and have a panic attack. And then you've got a whole
It's
2.5
pre-civil rights
hours.
movement.
Yeah, well, that too is probably. I mean, depending on the type of person you plucked, they might have
That's true.
multiple
Well, it's-
issues.
Also, like surrealist movement, because that was
Oh.
going on a little bit later.
Yeah,
Sure,
and
yeah.
so you could like you would be inspiring like the Salvador Dali's of the world
Yeah.
to make like really crazy art.
Well, and just superhero like spy like all that. Those concepts are just totally foreign, and they
Yeah.
make zero sense. Lego, all that stuff is just insanity for someone who has
Dude,
never
yeah,
even
the
seen
Lego
a movie.
sequence would be so disorienting because
Every piece
Legos
of it
hadn't
would
even
be
been.
like-
Legos started in like 1930 or something, so those aren't even around yet.
Yeah, no, and they were wooden for like 20 years at first as well. So
The
yeah,
ones that I got as a kid were always wooden too.
yeah, it's because
My mom would say, "That's all you get," and then she would lock the door from the outside.
and it was sawdust, not wood.
Yeah.
And that was your food.
So
Toy.
So shout out to Nathan
shout
Judd
out
for
to
that and Cal, I guess. Shout out to Nathan Judd for that idea.
And Nathan Judd.
I don't think he listens, but I'm shouting him out anyway.
better.
For that idea and that
Better
concept,
now.
just because that idea of like, well, I think he said it as like someone from medieval times, but
Sure,
just that
yeah.
idea of bringing someone from the past into the future to watch a movie, I just love so much.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think my answer is very, like, typical. It's a classic answer. And that's Avatar, right? It is
Nice.
the 3D
Yeah.
epic, right?
That's
I
another
think
thing. They would be like, that's real. I just
Yeah,
saw
this
something-
occurred.
Exactly.
I'm watching
That
this
is
happen.
real.
in
There is
front of me.
another planet up there. It's
Yeah.
called Pandora. There are blue people.
unobtainium, we need
We
to
just
go get it.
would not
We
have a
need-
concept of how that could be
Right.
achieved.
It would just be
otherwise.
so obsessed with getting to space and finding Pandora. It's like, I saw it, it's real. We have to get
Inspiring
there.
the space race. We find out that all this time the space race was actually America and Russia trying to get to Pandora.
Yeah, exactly. JFK's father saw Avatar.
He was abducted by aliens and shown Avatar. Oh. Dude, how many of those old alien abduction stories are just the story of somebody who
Getting
got picked up
transported to
by
the
time
future and-
travelers
Yeah.
and taken to watch Avatar?
Most of them, I bet.
Yeah, I think a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
so, yeah,
I'm
if
sorry.
yeah,
You were
yeah, continue.
still explaining.
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I think a lot of the concepts of science fiction would be, again, pretty new, and seeing it in such a real format would be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It looks good to us. And so
Yeah. Oh,
going back and showing them the impossible would be really cool.
Oh, The Impossible is another movie we could show them.
Showing them
The horrors
the horrors
of
of
a
a
tsunami.
oh yeah, like a disaster film. That would be insane. Like
geez.
2012 or something.
Yeah,
Like
showing
not
them
necessarily a good one,
2012.
but
Geostorm. They're like,
And they're like, what happens in
Moonfall.
2012?
like just some crazy Roland Emmerich.
We don't have much
disaster.
time.
oh, man. Yeah, Cloverfield, dude. Or like Blair Witch Project, where
Oh,
it's
man.
like
Dude,
found
yeah,
footage.
showing them
and
all
they're like,
horror
this is
movies.
real.
Dude, showing someone from the 20s
Yeah, Hereditary.
they would. I
They
think
would
that
pass away.
actually
They would die.
would make them
They would
die.
die.
Yeah.
They would die.
Their soul would leave their body and never return. Their corpse would be left in the future, and there'd be nothing anyone could do about it.
Oh, man.
Oh boy.
I love it.
Well, I think those are some really good ideas. If
I agree.
anyone listening does have access to a time machine and would like to give my papaw a thrill ride, my great papaw, go ahead and do that. Show
Yeah.
them any of these movies. I
Yep.
think.
Or a movie of your choice. I'm sure whatever you show them, they're going to be
Yeah.
blown away. And
Do you think they would be
Totally.
confused by something like Cars?
yeah, what's a movie you could show them that would just like it wouldn't like scare
I feel like they
or
would
blow
see
them
that
away.
and be
They'd
like, what?
what
They'd just be
is-
like, I just don't get.
Get
I
it.
don't
we're
know
watching.
what these are, first of all.
What is the? Yeah, just a totally foreign concept. Cars, and they're like, "Here's a movie about it."
Yeah, I had to start with animal figures, right? The cartoons.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, but what?
But now we're animating cars, which do not look like the vehicles that you know about.
Well, or you like to show them a crazy like Dumb and Dumber. Like, what would
Yeah.
they? Would they? They wouldn't laugh. They would be so
They're-
confused. They'd be like, "What is
Yeah.
this? What is
They would
happening?"
be really confused by the "we landed on the moon" joke. They're like, "What?"
like, they'd be like, "Moonfall is real." You sit them down for like 30 hours.
Moonfall is real.
You sit them down for 30
man.
hours, and you start them with these types of movies, and you end with stuff like Dumb and Dumber. So you take them through a crazy cinematic journey where you just you melt their brains. to
Clockwork
goo.
Orange style, just hold their eyes open.
You melt their brains into mush with these Across the Spot, Avatar, all these ones we talked about, and then you just get progressively stupider with the types of movies. And then one of the last one is like Year One with like Jack Black and Michael Cera.
Oh, yeah.
To where they're like, what? It's still movies. They probably aren't still used to the idea. It's on an IMAX
Dude.
screen in 3D. They're like, what is
You could-
happening?
You could show them The Founder and get McDonald's invented even earlier.
Even earlier,
That-
yes.
That would be true.
And you can
That's
show them
honestly,
Venom 2 and say, let there be carnage. Remember that line.
Remember to
Let there
say
be
that.
carnage.
That's going to be really important for you later. in your life.
That's really important. You remember to say it's going to come up a lot.
my great grandpappy's journal said something I'll never forget. He
Let
said,
there be carnage.
"Let there be carnage."
Oh,
In
man.
his final day of sanity.
Well, I mean, realistically, this person going back to the 20s would probably be burned at the stake because they're still doing that
Oh,
then, right?
yeah,
Sure.
totally.
Just
yeah,
yapping about
I think burning at
cars.
stake went up until like the early 2010s.
He's like, "What? A world war?
witchcraft.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I'll go.
I'll go."
I agree.
I just need an excuse to kill.
Man, what a funny concept.
Oh man, and that
Man,
guys, I
that's
think
why
that
like this prompt so much. It's just there's so much potential with it.
it's an
could
absurd.
ruin-
Basically,
You could
any
ruin
movie,
someone.
any movie is great.
Dude,
you could justify any.
How would they feel about like Spirited Away? Something that's just I feel like it's too cartoon. As soon as it's cartoons that are like kind of standard drawings, I feel like they could handle it.
Maybe it'd
Maybe.
still be
I
like
think it'd be a
so.
lot.
Yeah, it'd be too much.
Yeah. So, a lot to think about. And speaking of thinking about things, it's time for you to go and have your own thoughts. We're done sharing our thoughts to you. It's time you need to go and invent your own.
Yeah, share your thoughts
but-
with us.
And share them with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much to Fruity Dino Chewios for sponsoring this episode.
Couldn't do it without
Yes,
you.
thank you so
If-
much.
If you're one of the people who only like to hear the very beginning and very end of our podcast, then you kind of just time traveled yourself. You
To the perfect spot. Welcome.
You just skipped over basically an hour of time, and now
And
you're here in the future.
only good and funny parts of the podcast you also skipped over. So
That's true.
That's true.
Now you're
Got
just
'em.
listening to business,
Business talk.
and we
Yap,
have a
yap,
lot
yap.
of business for someone very special to the podcast.
speaking of business, we got a special shout out to my mom, Kel. Shout out to Kel from the following people: Roan Oberg, Nick Bell, Michael Polonzik, Easy Law, Britton Inkley, Riley Allen, Ian James Martin, and Hannah Steed.
Wow.
If you have been fully living under a rock and you don't know, you can give a shout out to my mom too by supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/mancavemovie-night. You get a shout out, my mom, at the end of every episode. And if you don't want your name read, you can put a fake name. Easy to do.
Or just say, please don't read my name.
Or just say, please don't read my name.
We'll
But
honor.
you might as
We'll
well
honor.
put in like a little joke
silly.
about the podcast. You could make your name The Founder, for example.
Yeah. That'd be a fun name.
And then, also on there we do post-credits episodes, which we're about to record, where we talk about crazy stuff. We talk about
get
serious
wild.
stuff. We talk about real world stuff. That's kind of where we get political, is where we talk about,
Yeah, very political bunch of boys we are.
the election is what we talk about.
We do so
Oh,
Even
much
when there's
political
even
talk.
when there's not an election, we're talking
We're
about
talking
the
about it.
election.
There's an election
No,
somewhere.
we don't.
Even if it's not in
We
the
don't
U.S.,
talk
there's
about
one somewhere.
politics because politics boring.
And dumb and lame. And
Like not. That's not why we don't talk about it. We just don't. Anyway,
We love you.
that's it.
That's
for
it.
me.
We love
join
you.
us. Join us on Patreon, or
Join us.
if you don't want to, that's totally fine.
Vin
We'll
Diesel
see
here.
you
You gotta join us
on
on,
another
the
Man Cave
Patreon.
movie night Monday.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
you will.
Bye-bye,
And in the
bye-bye,
future, they
bye-bye,
say
bye-bye,
buzz,
bye-bye.
buzz, by Zinga, which is what I'm going to say now. So, buzz, buzz, by Zinga.